All right, so first of all, how many of you, this is your first time hearing me speak? Yes, quite a few newbies. Okay, I'm going to make a promise to you. I promise you that if you'll engage me tonight, I promise over the next 30 minutes I'll share with you today some information that can and will totally change your life. I know that because we've literally helped change the lives of tens of thousands of people dealing with this problem. It's not difficult, but I can make you a promise. If you continue to do what you've always done, you're going to continue to get what you've always gotten. And if you're looking for a different result, it's time to start thinking differently, and it's time to start acting differently, and it's also time to start surrounding yourself with people who think and act differently. Now, how many of you in here have ever heard of someone having a thyroid problem? I'm assuming that's why you're here tonight, right? How many of you in this room know, well, let's talk about some of the signs and symptoms of thyroid dysfunction. What are some of the symptoms that people get with thyroid? What do they have problems with? They can't lose, there you go, everybody relax. Can't lose weight, right? Can't lose weight. Your fatigue is a big one. Hair loss. Okay, I got it. Everybody calm down, I got you. I will help you fix those symptoms. Those are symptoms of potential thyroid dysfunction, but here's the thing, I want you to hear this. You got to hear this because you're not going to hear this from any other doctor. Well, you'll hear it from some, but not many of yours, I promise. The thyroid is not the primary problem. I got to tell you that again. The thyroid is not the primary problem. How many of you know people or have those symptoms that we just talked about? You're fatigued, you got cold hands and feet, metabolism's in the tanker, you're exhausted, you can't lose weight, losing hair, eyebrows are bad, nails don't grow, yada, 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 the list goes on. And then you go to your doctor with those symptoms, they run an incomplete blood test, they give you levothyroxine or Synthroid, but your symptoms don't change. Does that ring a bell with anybody? That's because the thyroid is not the primary problem. It's very rare that the thyroid is the primary problem. The thyroid can and will be the primary problem if you have direct trauma to the thyroid, or maybe you live in a region of the world where you don't have iodine. It's very, very rare, literally 20% or less, and in my world it's less than 10% of people that we truly see that present with thyroid stress truly have the thyroid the cause of the problem. So what I want to show you, and I'm going to make it really simple, I want to show you what health is. I want to show you how to look at your thyroid differently, how to look at your health differently so that you can get healthy. How many of you would agree that regardless of what symptoms you've got, right? If you got fatigue, depression, anxiety, insomnia, pain, numbness and tingling in your hands and fingers, bowel problems, can't lose weight, all the symptoms of thyroid, you don't care if it's coming from your thyroid as long as those symptoms go away and you feel better, correct? Yeah. Okay, so what I'm going to show you tonight is how to look a little differently. The problem is this. If you take this information and go back to your general practitioner, they're not going to know what to do with it, okay? We know because we train doctors. This is what we do. We practice something called functional healing, functional health, finding the cause of the problem. That's why the title for tonight is Improving Thyroid Function by Finding the Cause of the Problem, okay? Not just treating the symptoms. So what I want to talk to you about first, before I get into the thyroid, is you have to understand that there's one thing and one major thing only that's the major cause of thyroid dysfunction, any problem or pain you've got, the number one cause of sickness and disease and death on the planet, and that's one word, stress. Anybody ever heard of it before? Yeah. Stress is different, though, than what you think of. Now, if I say the word stress, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Headaches, kids, amen. Tired. Okay, all right, everybody relax again. You know, because my wife, my kids, my husband, my spouse, my job, all this stuff, right? Those are emotional stresses. And emotional stress is a thing. It's a measurable thing as well. But stress really is three types of things that we talk about in our world. Number one, we talk about physical stress. I need you to understand something, that if your body is physically out of alignment, I mean, this has got to make sense to you. If the car that you drove here today was out of alignment, eventually that car is going to have a problem with it. Would you agree with that? The check engine light's going to go off, the tires are going to go bad, the oil, something's going to go bad with it because the alignment's off. The human body's the same way. If you're structurally out of alignment, and the big thing with the thyroid is the abnormal curve in the neck. I'll leave these posters up here. I want you to take pictures of these. Your neck, this is very important you understand this. Your neck is supposed to have a big banana curve in it. From the time that we learn to walk, really crawl, until the time that we're no longer on this planet, we're supposed to have a 45-degree banana curve in that neck. Why that's so important, think about it. I'm going to give you a crude analogy, but think about your neck like a garden hose and your brain like your garden. If your neck flattens out, it kinks that hose. It doesn't allow for oxygen and blood supply to get to the brain. But what happens is if your body gets out of alignment, the first thing that negatively gets affected are your nerves. Nerves control everything. The analogy that I use for the body is, your spine, let me show you this. Your spine is like a giant fuse box, okay? Listen, if you don't get this, everything else I'm going to teach you is just not going to make sense. This is the keystone, cornerstone of everything I'm telling you about thyroid. We've had tens of thousands of people that we've been able to successfully get healthy by doing this system and protocol, by not just treating your symptoms. We don't do this for that in our office. What I mean is, you have this symptom, take that drug. It don't work that way. What we do is why. Why do you have it? Now, the nerves in the body are a huge contributing factor to most of your problems. Do you know your brain lives in your skull? It sends signals down your spine. All these nerves go to different areas of your body and different organs. Now, I'm going to leave this up here, and I want you all to take a picture of this. But over on this far, I guess it'd be your right side, this side over here, or whatever it is. This side of the poster talks about symptoms that you can have when you've got a fuse that's blown on this side. Now, think about it at your home. If you go home tonight after this amazing workshop and good dinner, and you flip on the lights in your kitchen or living room, and the lights don't turn on, and your light bulbs are good, and your bills are paid, where are you going to look for the cause of your problem? The fuse box. So the spine, the breaker box, fuse box, is the spine. That's what it is. Now, I want you to see something. The nerves in your neck, there are nerves at C4, and then in the low back as well at L3, but the nerve at C4 controls the thyroid. So if the fuse is blown because you have abnormal curve, you got postural stress, whatever, and that doesn't work, if all I try to do is change the light bulb when the fuse is blown, is that going to fix it? No. So if all I do is show you how to do all this nutritional stuff and change your lifestyle to fix your thyroid, but the fuse is blown, is that going to fix it? No. So first and foremost, we've got to know what your nerve function is like. You've got to know this. There's a simple test we can do, a simple x-ray and a scan of the nerves of your spine that can tell us where the problem is. Does that make sense? Now, I want you to also understand something. I want to talk about a couple other organs in a minute, because the poor thyroid gets blamed for stuff that, man, it just didn't do. If I was the thyroid, I'd be like in a 12-step, program right now, because it gets blamed for so many problems that's caused primarily by the liver, the adrenal glands, and your ovaries. Guys, we don't have those, so it causes our testes could be the problem, okay? I'm not even going to go there. I just saw what that lady said to her husband. I'm not even going there. But by the way, there's nerves at C5 that control the pancreas. There's nerves at C6 that control the liver. There's nerves in the lower back that control the bowels and the ovaries. So again, if the fuses are blown, don't matter what we do nutritionally, if we change the light bulb and the breaker's blown, it's not going to work. Does that make sense? So first and foremost, we've got to know the structure and the function of your nerves. That's number one, okay? All the rest of this is based off of that, all right? Now, I'm also going to leave this beautiful artwork up here. I'll read it to you so you can read it. I write like a doctor. I apologize, okay? This is the best. It took me a while to really slow down to write this. But what I'm going to show you is the thyroid cascade and where you're missing the problem and where your doctor's missing the problem. So, first of all, if the nerves don't work, thyroid doesn't work. We've agreed on that, yes? Second of all, let's talk about how the thyroid works. Now, really, really simple. The thyroid is a secondary organ. It's a secondary gland. That means something else has to stimulate it to work. So if what we're doing is we're treating the thyroid with levothyroxine and Synthroid, and there's another problem up or downstream, you'll never fix it. You'll never feel any better. You'll never, ever, ever get the problem resolved. And by gosh, most doctors don't even have a clue what to check. That's why I got into this, because we're so frustrated with the standard model of care that just didn't work. So I need you to understand that the thyroid, that's this bow tie looking structure right here in your body, okay? The thyroid gets the stimulation from the brain. The brain sends this stimuli to the thyroid in something called TSH. TSH. You've heard of that before because that's what your doctor's checking you for. And all they're really looking at is the TSH high or low. And depending upon if it's high or low, that determines what type of drug they give you. That is just so minuscule in the grand scheme of what all could be going on. It's an absolute waste of time, and it's an embarrassment that that's how you're treated. So TSH is something we want to know, but here's what you need to understand. 90%, I'm going to say that again, 90% of thyroid problems start out as Hashimoto's thyroid problems. 90%. Just so you know, 90+% of thyroid is all autoimmune related. All of it. When your doctors are telling you, oh, you just have hypo versus hyper, there's a big difference, okay? So most doctors measure your TSH. The thyroid then sends this signal to make something called T4. The T4, the number 4, is the amount of iodine molecules that are on the thyroid. Does that make sense? Iodine. Iodine's an important thing for thyroid. You're not going to get enough iodine, especially in the Midwest, right? We're not eating, seaweed and kelp and fresh caught sea fish every day, right? So T4, now this is where people don't understand this. T4 goes through your liver and your gallbladder to make T3. T3 is what converts into energy. T3 is what makes you have metabolism. T3 is what allows your nerves to regenerate and regrow. You've heard of things like neuropathy. If you don't have a good function of this, you can't regenerate nerves in your extremities. So the biggest problem that most of us have, number 1 is the nerves are bad. We got to check that. Number 2 is we got a big problem with our friend, the liver and the gallbladder. And some of you are saying, I don't got no problem with my gallbladder. That thing got cut out 10 years ago. Guess what? You got a big problem with your gallbladder. Okay? Because you don't got one. T4 goes in through the liver. The gallbladder makes something called bile salt. Bile salt is what converts T4 to T3. I'm not telling you to do this, but I'm telling you that about 2 months ago, we had a woman come to this very workshop, a different location, and I said, go take some bile salt. I said that at the workshop. She didn't believe anything that I said, so she didn't take action on anything, but she went and took some bile salt. She started feeling so much better, but it wouldn't get better than, she kind of plateaued after 2 months, and she finally came in and said, I want to find out what's really going on. Because she started taking some bile salt, and by the way, here's some signs and symptoms that you need bile salt. Number 1, anytime you eat a greasy or fatty meal, you get shoulder pain or back pain. You get bloatiness after you eat a meal. You get real tired after you eat a meal. Those are some signs and symptoms of thyroid. By the way, bile salt issues. By the way, headaches. Most headaches that people get are caused because the liver's bad. Next time you get a headache, your liver's right here, right on this right side right there. Take your fingers and go stick your fingers way in there. And then what happens is if after 15 to 20 seconds of jamming those fingers in there, if that pain goes away, it's a liver-induced headache. Stop taking Tylenol, because guess what that does? Jacks up your liver. Does anybody know what the number 1 stressor that we ingest is for the liver? Nope. Sugar. Carbohydrates. Most people don't have you guys have heard of fatty liver before? Most people that have thyroid problems have a fatty liver. So here's the deal. There's a huge link between low functioning thyroid and high liver enzymes, fatty liver. That's why when you go to today, I'm just going to vent for a second. Today I had a woman come see me who I dearly, dearly love, and she came in and she said, my doctor, he's an expert in the thyroid, checked my thyroid and said it's fine. They took one test. They did a TSH test. The lady waited 2 months to get in to see this joker, and all he did was a TSH check. And so we ran a full blood test on her to look at all this other stuff. I'm not trying to be rude, but listen, we're only on this planet for a short time, and I'm trying to make as much impact as we can. And there's too many people suffering unnecessarily because the doctors are ignorant. They don't know what to check. I used to be the same way. Now, I'm not being rude about that. Ignorance is different than stupid. Ignorance means you don't know. Like, I don't know how to fly a plane. Right? Stupid is you learn something and you still don't do it. and Jeff Foxworthy or one of those guys says you can't fix stupid, right? Right? Okay, so listen, fatty liver is a big deal. So in order to make sure your thyroid's functioning right, the liver has to work good and the bile has to work good. We measure that. We measure. We have a phrase in our office. We say, we don't guess, we test. So there's something in this cascade. A lot of times it's the liver. And most research says, and by the way, most of our patients would agree with this, 80% of thyroid problems comes from a dysfunctioning liver. We're eating too many carbs. But here's the deal. You got to understand something. If we find the cause, if you really truly want to get your health back, and you can, but if we find the cause, then it's up to you to do something about it. If we find out you're sensitive to sugars, you got some mineral deficiencies, you need to stop eating carbs, and you don't, you're not going to get any better. Right? Our job is to give you the map, the keys, and the car, but you still got to drive it. So we'll show you, okay, and we can test it and see. So the liver's a big deal. Does that make sense? Yeah. Number 2, well, actually 3 because the nerve's number 1. 2 is liver. Number 3, the adrenal glands. Has anybody ever heard of them before? Yeah. These are a set of glands that live on your kidneys. They're responsible for adrenaline production. The adrenal glands do a lot of things in our body, but the main 3 things they do is they regulate all of your hormones, all of them, including thyroid hormone and insulin, as well as testosterone, estrogen, and all those kind of things. But the thing is that the blood test that you must have done is called a cortisol test. Your cortisol levels are supposed to be between an 11 and a 26. If they're below that, that means you have a low functioning adrenal glands, and guess what? Your body cannot convert T4 to T3 like it's supposed to. Then your TSH level's out of balance. You go to your doctor, they go, no problem, here's some levothyroxine, you take it for a month, no change. Because you're treating the symptom, not the cause. Does that make sense? So you have to address the adrenals. The next thing that has to be addressed, ladies, just so you know, guys and gals, we both get low functioning thyroid. Guys, it's usually because our liver's fatty and our adrenals are trashed. Ladies, it's usually because your liver's bad and your ovaries are bad. Now, no, my ovaries are fine, they're gone. They're real bad then. So it's still fixable, okay? So here's the deal, just hear me on this. Your ovaries produce something called estrogen. Most women, I'm just going to tell you, most women over the age of 40 in our culture, in our country, have estrogen dominance. And you know this for several reasons. Number 1, you can tell during your cycle, if you're still cycling, okay, that your cycles are really heavy. You don't have regular periods. You get really bad maybe cramps or PMS before, during, and even after. Fatigue really bad a week before, a week after. A lot of times women, because the estrogen levels are high, you're really tired for 3.5 weeks out of the month. It's totally reversible if you're willing to do what it takes to get it fixed. Estrogen dominance can also cause you to, well, grow hair where you shouldn't, right? It can also cause you to lose hair where you should keep it. There's a lot of things that are there because the estrogen gets dominant. We test for that. We don't guess, we test. It's just that simple, okay? So we got to check nerves. We got to check liver, we got to check adrenals, and we got to check ovaries, okay? Now, some of you say, well, what if my thyroid's been removed? Well, then you need to be on some type of thyroid stimulus, thyroid medication. You're going to need to be on that for the rest of your life. But what was the original cause that jacked up the thyroid in the first place? That needs to be dealt with. If you're driving around in your car and ding, your check engine light goes off, if all you do is remove the check engine light or put a piece of tape over it, that's just like taking your thyroid out when you get a goiter. Do you know what a goiter is? Swollen thyroid? Do you know why the thyroid swells whenever there's bad stimulus to it? All organs swell in an attempt to try to produce more function. So like if you have heart disease, does your heart get smaller or big? Big. If you lose one kidney, the other one gets bigger. If you injure part of your liver, what happens? The other part swells. It's a compensation thing. A goiter, doctors should know that a goiter, swollen thyroid, or even nodules that can become cancerous, there's something that caused that. And if all I do is cut that organ out and don't fix the cause, can you see how there's still a problem lurking in the body? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Find the cause and fix that. Stop treating the symptoms. That's all I'm saying. Okay? Now, let's talk. Of course it makes sense. It's common sense. Yeah. Unfortunately, in healthcare, common sense is very uncommon. This is physio. I learned out of the same book that every other doctor learned out of. But when I got tired of going this for that, symptom pill, no result, I had to figure it out. We had to dig deeper. We had to find out, why are you not getting better? And then all this is developed over the last 15 years. And every month, I tell Crystal, tell them I'm teaching them something I've never taught before. Because we're constantly learning new things to evolve to make it better, right? So you need to be with doctors like that. Now, remember this or write this down. There are 7 big things that go in with thyroid dysfunction. Number 1, there's a nutritional deficiency that almost every person has with this cascade. It's low selenium. Now, we can measure selenium, but I'm just telling you right now, you're not getting enough selenium in your diet anyway. So you need to get some selenium in your system. And you know where you can do that from? Nuts. Brazil nuts are great. Go get some selenium. And the dose for women, 300 milligrams a day. Guys, 400 milligrams a day. That's a great place to start to get your energy up, because selenium feeds all of this stuff. Number 2, here's something that most of you are not going to like when I say this, okay? Number 2, we've got to change our eating patterns and what we eat. Now, I'm not going to take away all the foods that you enjoy every once in a while, but if we continue to do what we've always done, we're going to keep getting what we've always gotten. Does that make sense? If you want a different result, you have to act differently. We need to start shifting our diet from the standard American diet. The standard American diet. Standard American diet. SAD. If we keep eating SAD, we're going to keep being sad. Heart disease, cancer, diabetes, stroke, the list goes on and on because of what we're feeding our body. Now, I'm not quite sure what's on the menu tonight, but it's probably part of this diet, okay? So enjoy it tonight. Because here's the deal. It's all about 80-20. We really need to have a ketogenic type of a food plan. All people do well with that. I'm not telling you have to go home and completely eat nothing but keto, lots of fats. I'm not saying that. But your diet needs to consist primarily of dark green leafy vegetables, and you need to eat a lot of lean meat protein. That's where we should be. And then we need to be getting some good healthy fats in the body. But if you're getting bloatiness, shoulder pain, that kind of stuff, all the symptoms of fat metabolism problems, pain in the shoulders, shoulder blades and neck, all that stuff, it's because we need to deal with the liver. And then there's something else that I want every one of you to look up and look into. It's called intermittent fasting. You got to understand something. Intermittent fasting, I'm not telling you to fast all day, every day. But ladies and gentlemen, we abuse food in our culture. I'm just as guilty as everybody else. I was raised and belonged to the Clean Plate Club, okay? So now I fill my plate with greens instead of gravy, okay? I want the gravy, but the greens are what helps us get energy, right? Helps us stay alive, helps us do the things we want. If we want a result, we got to take an action. If not, then you're just dreaming about it. A goal is you take action on it, right? So intermittent fasting is skipping breakfast, having lunch, having dinner, eating within a small window of time, because I need you to hear this. If you want to burn fat off your body, you first have to burn fat off your organs. And the liver, the fatty liver, that 80% of our population has because we eat too many carbs and too much sugar. It's not from too much fat. It's not too much fried food, which those aren't great either, but it's the carbohydrates. If we minimize those in our system and we start having some intermittent fasting, you'll start burning the fat off of your organs, and then it'll burn off of your body as well. Does that make sense? Yeah. And I'm telling every one of you right now, and some of you in this room can attest to this, once you shift your metabolism from a sugar carbohydrate burner to a fat burner, you get energy like this all the time. It's pretty awesome. And it takes a little time, not much, a little time, but my gosh, does it make a big difference in all of this. I'll tell you right now, if keto and intermittent fasting was the lifestyle that adults would switch to, we'd be able to eradicate probably 80% of most chronic diseases that we have. True story. I'll talk about that later. Here's another one, number 3. There's an herb called milk thistle. Milk thistle is one of the best things that you could take as an adult to get the liver to start burning fat as fuel. It helps burn that fat off the liver, lowers the liver enzymes. What did I tell you? High liver enzymes, low functioning thyroid. Healthy liver enzymes, healthier thyroid. You see the correlation? Milk thistle, and the average adult needs 750 milligrams a day, average. Some of you are going to need that twice a day, but let's test, not guess, okay? Milk thistle is huge. Number 4, choline. Choline is a B vitamin. Choline helps so much. I mean, so much. Choline helps so much with the liver and with overall energy production in the body, adrenals, and the thyroid. Guess the number one food that choline comes in? Egg yolks. Remember the doctors? Don't eat them egg yolks. They're going to cause you to have cholesterol. That's going to kill you. No, it's not. Holy cow, not even moderation. I eat at least a dozen and a half eggs a week, okay? My 14-year-old eats 2 dozen a week, okay? Well, that's going to clog your arteries. No, it's not. We've been so lied to about cholesterol. Cholesterol is a stress hormone that's produced when our body's out of balance. And by the way, the older we get, the more cholesterol we're supposed to have to keep our brain and nerves alive, period. Period. By the way, you know any kids that are autistic or dyslexic or that stuff, usually their cholesterol is too low. We get their cholesterol where it's supposed to be. They start talking, functioning, focusing, all that stuff again. By the way, if you're on cholesterol meds, you're in that 80%. Just think about that. We'll come to my cholesterol workshop, okay? Choline, huge, so important, and we can test for that. Zinc, that's a big one. Zinc is a major mineral deficiency in our culture. We don't eat many foods that have zinc in it. The ground doesn't have zinc like it used to, so we need to supplement with zinc. Some ways that you can tell if you're zinc deficient, if you look at your fingernails and you have white line or lines in your fingernails, it's called leukoplakia. That's a telltale sign that you're deficient in zinc. Zinc is the number one nutrient, mineral that you need to produce testosterone, guys and gals. Guess what happens? Low testosterone, high estrogen. Guess what else causes high estrogen? Eating. There's some things you eat that cause high estrogen. One is soy. Guess what soy's in? Everything. Number 2, plastic. Drinking out of plastic cans, plastic bottles, all that kind of, I guess not a plastic can, but drinking out of plastic is bad. Zinc. So here's the thing with zinc. We should test to find out the levels, but most people need between 25 and 50 milligrams a day of zinc, okay? You don't want too much zinc, okay? Here's my disclaimer. Get tested before you take high doses of anything, okay? Please don't, and this is being recorded, by the way, so I'm going to hoard this to you if you're like, well, that doctor said take this and then jack me up. You didn't do it right. I told you to get tested and then you can do it. So 25 to 50 milligrams of zinc is amazing for hormone balance and all this other stuff. This is probably the biggest one that we find. Vitamin D3. Your vitamin D3 on a blood test is supposed to be between a 60 and a 100 nanometers per milliliter. Most people on a blood test are nowhere near that. Because if you're 30 or above, you're not going to have rickets or bone disease and that stuff. So your doctors tell you if you're 30 or above, you're fine. It's not true. You need to be between a 60 and a 100, okay? Vitamin D is a pro-hormone. It's anti-inflammatory. It helps get the fat out of the liver. It boosts energy. It helps the body with bile production. It helps the estrogen balance out naturally. And it helps the T4 convert to T3. So it's a big, big deal. Most adults we use during the day 5,000 IUs a day of vitamin D3. So we need to supplement more than that if we're deficient. It's the only way you can gain. And if your doctors give you a 50,000 IU prescription to take once a week, that's D2. It's not absorbable. You're wasting your money, you're wasting your time. It doesn't work. It's got to be D3. And it needs to be a liquid emulsified. That's the best form of it, okay? And then the last thing I'll tell you is bile salt. We recommend, there's a lot of products out there. Ox bile, OX bile. You take one with each meal, and that's a pretty great place to start. Also, a multi-enzyme. I didn't put it on here, but multi-enzymes are really, really good to take with your meals. It helps your body break down and digest the foods so that your system's not overstressed when you eat. Does that make sense? I'm telling you right there, if you'll just put that into play, that'll make a huge difference in your overall health, which will totally improve thyroid function. Now let me tell you a couple things. At first, when you shift your body from being out of balance towards shifting it to being in balance, the body's going to make some changes that sometimes it's going to reject. How many of you know people that smoke for 15, 20, 30, 40 years, drink soda, alcohol all the time, and then they quit, right? What does the body do? It goes through a withdrawal and a detox. If you go from eating crappy foods to eating healthy, you're going to be craving crackers and waffles and pancakes and all this stuff that is just not good for us that tastes so good, right? So just be aware of that. Be ready with it. That's why you need to be around people that can support you and hold your hand along the way, that know how to walk you through the process. Because if you want to get the goal, whatever your goal is, get off meds, lose weight, feel better, function better, you got to do this stuff. You got to put it into play. You must get healthy to lose weight. This is a huge thing that we talk about. If you guys go to our website, neputewellness.com, and go under patient resources, there's some great videos on there on our metabolic reset programs. I mean, this is it right here. I developed that weight loss plan to fix all these organs and fix the diseases. Just a great side effect of it is you lose weight, okay? Few more things I want to say. Hold on. A few more things I want to say, and then we'll eat. Must check. This is a VIP. You must check. If when you are concerned with your thyroid or concerned of your symptoms, concerned of whatever problems you've got, you must check these things. Number one, you got to get your nervous system checked. Number one, you have to have the nerves that control those organs working. Can you guys all see how the thyroid, liver, adrenals, and ovaries all work together? So the nerves that control that has to be functioning first and foremost, okay? Number two, you got to check your liver gallbladder function. Liver gallbladder function has to be assessed. And here's what is not okay. Your doctor's saying, well, you know, you don't have a gallbladder, you'll be fine. Or, oh, you got liver enzymes, we'll just keep an eye on them. No, that's not okay. That's not okay. We'll find the cause and we'll fix it. It's not difficult to do that. Number three, you must check the adrenal gland function. That's a blood test. Cortisol levels. That's a must. That's a VIP. You got to get your hormone levels checked, especially estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, guys and gals. Okay. Number five, you got to check food sensitivities and food allergies. You are going to be blown away when you find out, like, for example, if your ovaries are bad, you need to eat a lot of cruciferous vegetables. Broccoli, kale, cauliflower, that kind of stuff. If your adrenals are the primary problem, you can't have cruciferous vegetables. If your thyroid's the primary problem, which is very rare that it is, cruciferous vegetables block iodine. So you can't have cruciferous. So there's all this stuff, like, we think we're eating healthy. You may be eating something that's healthy, broccoli or lettuce or whatever, but you may be sensitive to it. So it's important to know those things. Everybody's health is individualized. We can't, what we call, cookbook it. We can kind of throw a system out there and then tweak it along the way, but you need to know these things. These are vital health markers, okay? And then the last thing that I want to talk about is you need to know your body's pH. You can do that through a simple urine test. The urine test that you do measures your pH, and pH can tell us a lot of things. pH, if it's lower than it should be, that means your body cannot absorb the foods that you're eating, the nutrients that you're taking in. And many of you have that problem. Low pH means you can't absorb nutrients. So you're taking a lot of Vita Vegemin, or you're taking a lot of whatever's out there, right? But if you don't have a good pH, you can't absorb it. So I always tell folks it's like putting gas in your car, but it doesn't go into your engine. Does that make sense? And a lot of you feel that. A lot of you are like, wow, I'm eating good, I'm exercising, why don't I feel any different? Because there's something else going on in there. And by the way, if pH is too low, a pH acidic environment is the only environment that's going to cause chronic inflammation, chronic pain, chronic fatigue. The list goes on and on. Chronic diseases in there as well. So knowing these numbers, knowing this function is really the key to your health. That's the key. So I know that's a lot of information, but can y'all see how we think and act differently? Can y'all see how us thinking, acting differently, and doing different things is going to get a different result? Because it works. This works every time if you work it. The only way that this doesn't work is if you don't do it. And I understand that. Some of you are interested in finding out where your health truly is. Some of you have goals, right? You got your goals. You want to lose weight. You want to feel younger. You want to be able to play with your kids, your grandkids. You want to be able to go to work and come home and have a life. You want to be able to have energy. You want to not be stuck with sickness, disease, whatever your goal is. Get rid of diabetes. The list goes on and on. Those are your goals. But in order to first achieve your goal or to get to a destination, what do you need to know first? Where you're at. If I give you a map and say go to Nashville, Tennessee, you go, okay, great. The first thing you have to find out is where you're at. So what I'm saying is you need to find out where your health truly is. You need to measure this stuff. And that's what we do at our offices. We measure that stuff. And we don't make any bones about it. We're really straightforward and simple with our people. Why? Because we help a lot of people every day. And here's what I always tell my team. Our job as a healthcare team is to give our patients the map, the keys, and the car. It's your job to drive it. It's not our responsibility for that. But we're here to help you, educate you, and hopefully motivate and inspire you to take some action. So when you come in to see us, we understand your goals, but we want to find out where you're at. And then our job is to help bridge that gap between the two. Does that make sense?